This is the review PowerPoint for Math 7, Chapter 2 End Quiz, going over subtracting rational numbers and also multiplying, dividing rational numbers. So we're going to start off with a word problem. And our word problem says a 14.5 gallon gasoline tank is 3/4 full. How many gallons will it take to fill the tank? So we're trying to figure out how many gallons we need extra in order to fill this gas tank. So we know just from that we need 1/4 of a tank to fill up. And from there we can go a couple different routes. So what I'm going to do is actually take my 14.5 and I'm going to divide it into 4 equal pieces, or fourths. And when I do this long division here, 4 goes into 14 3 times. So we bring down our 12, drop down this 5, and 4 goes into 25 6 times. 24 minus 1, we're going to add a 0, drop it down. 4 goes into 10 2 times. And we have a 2, a 0, drop that down. 4 goes into 20 5 times. And then we are done. So our answer is 3.625 gallons is necessary. Now, if you decided to go the route of using fractions, even though our beginning number is a decimal, our end number here, the other information we're given, is in fraction form, we could answer this in fraction form as well, and you would get 3 5/8 gallons. So either one of those answers is going to work here. Okay, our subtraction. So here, 2/7 minus 6/7. Since we have the same denominator, we're going to circle those numerators, 2 minus 6, or we can think about that as 2 plus a negative 6. So you have negative 4 over 7, and so negative 4/7 is your answer. Now our next one isn't as quick as that. We actually have to find a common denominator. But what we look at first is these two symbols right next to each other. And I like to circle those because it turns into a plus sign. So those signs are gone, and we have 12/7 plus 2/9. Now, in order to do that, we actually need that common denominator, like I said before. And here, the least common denominator is actually 63. So we're going to multiply these fractions so they have a common denominator. And we're going to get 108 over 63 plus 14 over 63. And once I have that common denominator, I'm able to add these numerators. So I get 122 over 63. And when I simplify that, 63 goes into 122 one time, and we have 59 left over, 63 as my denominator. Okay, next we're going to be dealing with some decimals. We're still subtracting. So we have 9.1 minus 12.9. Now here, we're starting with a low amount of positives and we're taking even more than what we started with away. So if we have about 9 and we take away about 13, we're going to end up with a negative answer. So I'm going to put that negative sign to the side so I remember. And we could also rewrite this problem as an addition problem. Even though we are actually subtracting, we can rewrite this as an addition problem. So 9.1 minus 12.9 is getting us more negative. So we could do 9.1 plus those negative 12.9. And here it's a little bit easier to see that our answer is going to be negative. So when we're adding numbers with different signs, we take the larger value, 12.9, and we're going to subtract the smaller value, which is 9.1. And that answer there, we use the sign of the larger value. So our answer is actually negative. It should be 3.8. 3.8. Negative 3.8. Our next problem, we have 5.647, or 5 647 hundredths, minus a negative 9 and 24, or thousandths, minus a negative 9 and 24 hundredths. So again, those two symbols are right next to each other. We're going to turn that to addition. And now when we're adding decimals, we need to line up that decimal place. So we're going to line up those decimals, add a 0 for a placeholder, and when we add this up, we get 14 887 thousandths as our answer. And that is positive. Okay, multiplication. We're going to look at some fractions first. So 5/8 multiplied by -4/15. So when I see a positive number multiplied by a negative, I know the answer is going to be negative. And then with fractions, I look to cross cancel. And luckily, I can do some cross canceling here. So 8 and 4, I can divide them both by 4. So 4 becomes a 1, 8 becomes a 2. And then I can also cross cancel with 5 and 15. I can divide them both by 5. So 5 divided by 5 is 1. 15 divided by 5 is 3. And then I multiply straight across. And I get 1/6. But I can't forget that negative sign I drew. So it's -1/6 as my answer. Next problem here is -9.4 multiplied by a -4.7. So I'm going to stack these numbers, line up the digits, not the decimals. In this case, the decimals do end up lining up. And we have a negative multiplied by a negative, so we know it's going to be a positive answer. So then we just do regular multiplication. And when we're doing that, we make sure we group. So 9 times 7 is 63, 64, 65. Add the placeholder, 16, 37. And then we're going to add those together, 8, 11, regroup, 14, regroup. And then we have to look at our original numbers. We have 2 numbers behind our decimal places. And that means we move our decimal place once, twice to the left. So our answer is a positive 44 and 18 hundredths. Okay, now into division. So our first division problem is -8 and 5/9 divided by -1 and 4/7. So there's a lot going on here, but I do see a negative number divided by a negative. And when they're the same sign, it's going to be positive. So I'm going to write a positive sign right away. And when I see mixed numbers, I know with division, especially in multiplication and fractions, we need to change these into improper fractions. So 9 times 8 is 72, plus 5, we get 77 over 9, and that is negative, divided by a negative, let's see, 7 times 1 is 7, plus 4 is 11 over 7. Now, when we're dividing fractions, we need to make sure we multiply by the reciprocal. So we're going to keep that 77 over 9, and I'm going to drop the negative signs now since I know it's a positive answer at the end. And we change this division sign to multiplication, and we flip that second fraction. So we're multiplying by its reciprocal, which is 7 over 11. And from there, we're going to be able to do a little bit of cross-canceling, this 77 and 11. I'm going to divide them both by 11. And the 11 is going to become a 1, 77 is going to become a 7. And I can't cross cancel with 9 and 7, so I'm left with just multiplying straight across. I get 49 over 9, and I have to see how many times 9 can go into 49, which is 5 times, that's 45, and 4 ninths. And we knew it was positive from the beginning, so it should be 5 and 4 ninths. Our second problem is division. -8.4 divided by positive 2.1. So it's a negative number divided by a positive, so we know our answer is going to be negative. And this last number here is actually our divisor. So we put 2.1 on the outside of our division house, 8.4 on the inside. And when we're looking at our divisor, the number on the outside, we can't have a decimal there, so we have to swoop it over to make it a whole number. So we're going to move it over and bring it straight up. And so we have to figure out now how many times can 21 go into 84. And I say 4 times, so 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, and we are left with nothing left over. So our answer is negative, since we said it was negative in the beginning, -4. So that is the rest of the problems we might not have gotten to in class. Go ahead and review your notes, look over your graded homework, and then make sure you're ready for your quiz tomorrow.